Hello friends and welcome back. It's Terry with Terry's Mailbox, and today I am posting for the Funky Junkie Boutique. So the challenge is April showers bring May flowers, and I decided to do another one of my etc. tags. So this is a floral tag that actually has my grandparents on it instead of one of Tim's portrait. So again, I started with a small etc. tag and a piece of the heavyweight cardstock, which I trimmed to be the tag size. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab that doily embossing folder. I love this thing. This is just gorgeous. It just adds such a cool texture to any background. So I went ahead and embossed it at the top of the tag. And then you'll see I rotated it around, and I'm going to go ahead and emboss the lower corner opposite of the one that I just did. And so this will add a lot of dimension to the entire tag. So I'm going to go ahead and emboss that off camera there. So I've got a piece of copy paper, and then I grabbed a embossing ink folder, and I'm going to go ahead and run it across there and add clear embossing powder and heat set it. And that will help the doily to really show up against my ink smooshed background, which is the next thing I'm going to do. I will say I did have to pull a small paintbrush and knock off some of the extra embossing powder that kind of got stuck between the openings. So next I'm grabbing some of my sprays, and I've got speckled egg, saltwater taffy, antique linen, and old paper. And I'm going to start with the paper colors first, old paper and antique linen. And we'll go ahead and spray that background and get it pretty well covered. Then I'm going to pull up the speckled egg, and I'm just adding some splotches here. You can see I didn't add a whole lot of ink, and so I'm going to go ahead and heat dry it. And once I've got it heat dried, then I'm going to move on to my new favorite color, the saltwater taffy. I really love this color. It's a very corally, pinky, peachy, just a gorgeous color. So you can see I'm kind of adding that all over the background. And then we'll go ahead and heat dry that. And so once I have that all heat dried, that's when we'll go ahead and rub the top of it with a slightly damp paper towel. You can see here as I take the inks off the top, it really makes that doily pop. That's the cool thing about distress inks and products. They're water reactive, so it's easy to keep working with your colors. So again, I stitched around the perimeter of it, and I'm going to go ahead and leave those threads hanging. So the next thing I'm going to do is pull my collage medium out and attach it to the front of that tag. So I always go ahead and do this, and then I kind of poke the hole out later if I do want the hole exposed. It kind of depends on what I'm doing, but for this one, I will be adding a bow at the top, at the end, that you'll see. But again, for right now, we're just going to go ahead and get this tag put on here. And then I'm going to set that aside to dry. And the next thing I'm doing is ink smooshing again with my new favorite color, saltwater taffy. I wanted to cut some blooms out with the saltwater taffy. So again, I'm kind of creating that background there with saltwater taffy with the ink pad and just water, and it's on watercolor paper. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all dried off, and you can see here I've got some lighter areas, some darker areas kind of working on, because as I said, I'm going to cut the bloom colorize. The flowers, I'm going to go ahead and cut that out of this saltwater taffy piece. And so once I had the pieces all cut out, I decided that I have some centers there that I want it to be a little bit darker to add the texture onto the floral bloom. So again, next thing I'm doing is I'm just going ahead and glue the layers together. So I'm just I use white glue with this needle nose applicator. And so we'll go ahead and just, I'm showing you how we're doing this, putting it all together. It was pretty easy to follow the photo on the front of the package. So again, adding all these different pieces, and you can see now I'm going for that darker colored piece. And then I've got one more lighter one that goes on. There we go. So I've got one more little piece here. Trying to figure out exactly where I want to put that one. So there's my one of the blooms. So I did make 3 blooms. The next thing I did was I pulled a quote chip, and it's in my heart. And what I did was I just used my ink dauber and added the speckled egg embossing glaze over it. I really like this embossing glaze. It's just cool because it's just translucent and just really adds a nice pop to things. So now here's all of my pieces together. And so you can see there's my grandparents, that's Aggie and Alois. And so I've got a bow there with some buttons on it, and that's kind of an ode to my grandmother, who was a seamstress and made all of our Barbie doll clothes, believe it or not. So again, I've got the 3 little blooms there, and then I've got a yellow spray that I created. And then there's some of the leaves and things. I will say that you can add an extra layer of ink blending on distressed cardstock if you want a darker layer, which is what I ended up doing. So here I've got everything all put together, and we're going to add that frame. And you can see I glued a layer or a row of lace around the outside of it to kind of accentuate it. And then I also put a piece of fun foam on the bottom to give it a little bit more dimension. And so there we have the final piece there, and I'm just, really happy with the way this thing turned out. I think it's really pretty. I love the doily background. It's just really a bright and happy, etc. tag. And so there's the photo again. So again, it's Terry with Terry's Mailbox. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and Blogger. I'd love to have you come and follow.